On a warm evening of August 15, 2009 in Jahra, Kuwait, what was meant to be a joyful wedding turned into a nightmare. The air was festive as women and children gathered in a large tent, celebrating with music and dance. However, the mood changed dramatically when tragedy struck. Nasra Yussef Mohammed al-Enezi, the 23-year-old ex-wife of the groom, was filled with anger and revenge. Upset about her ex-husband's second marriage, she decided to do something terrible. Quietly, she approached the tent, carrying a can of petrol. Without anyone noticing, she poured the petrol around the tent, focusing on the area near the only exit. Then she set it on fire. In just 3 minutes, the fire spread across the entire tent. People inside began to scream and scramble, but there was only one way out, and it was engulfed in flames. The tent, which didn't follow fire safety rules, quickly became a death trap. The heat inside soared to over 500 degrees Celsius, 930 degrees, making it impossible for many to escape. Outside, chaos erupted as families tried desperately to help their loved ones get out. Smoke billowed from the tent, and the flames could be seen from a distance, drawing more people to the horrifying scene. As the fire department and emergency services rushed to the scene, the community was left in shock over the scale of the disaster. It was one of the deadliest civilian disasters in Kuwait in the last 40 years. As the investigation continued from the tragic wedding fire in Al-Jahra, the authorities grappled with more than just the immediate aftermath. 41 lives, mostly women and children, were lost in a horrifying inferno that consumed a celebratory tent in mere minutes on that fateful Saturday evening. The disaster, which occurred just 50 kilometers west of Kuwait City, not only shattered families but also sparked a frantic response from emergency services. In the chaos, a deadly stampede ensued as terrified guests, engulfed by flames and smoke, rushed toward the tent's sole exit. Brig Gen Jasem Al-Mansouri, speaking with the AP news agency, depicted the scene at the exit as nightmarish, with numerous shoes melted to the floor amidst the bodies. Silent testimony to the desperate struggle for life that had taken place. 6 of the deceased were innocent children, adding a deeper layer of sorrow to the calamity. As many as 60 other individuals, also women and children, sustained injuries ranging from minor to critical. The impact extended beyond the physical as the community reeled from the shock and loss. Adding to the complexity of the disaster, the rescue efforts were notably hampered by large crowds of anxious relatives who had converged on the site, seeking information and hoping for the safety of their loved ones. This massive influx of people challenged the 4 teams of firefighters and the numerous ambulances dispatched to manage the situation effectively. The nation's ruler, Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed al-Jaber al-Sabah, moved by the magnitude of the tragedy, extended heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families. Meanwhile, authorities faced the grim task of identifying the victims, planning DNA tests to confirm their identities as shared by Brig Gen Al-Mansouri. Speculation about the fire's origin was rampant. Faulty electrical wiring and coals used for burning incense were among the considered causes, as investigators sifted through clues, determined to uncover how such a joyous occasion had turned so disastrously fatal. The story of the fire, its origins, its consequences, and its aftermath continued to unfold, weaving a narrative of caution, sorrow, and a community's resilience in the face of overwhelming tragedy. In the midst of the tragic wedding fire in Jahra, a sliver of hope emerged as reports confirmed that the groom's new bride had miraculously escaped unharmed. However, the relief was overshadowed by grief, as she lost her mother and a sister to the devastating flames that had engulfed the celebration tent. This personal story of mixed fate highlighted the broader chaos and heartbreak experienced by the community. The forensic challenge was daunting. Most of the victims were so severely burned that they were beyond immediate recognition, necessitating a painstaking identification process by police and forensic teams. Meanwhile, the medical aftermath was grim. 90 guests were injured during the fire and subsequent stampede, with 5 suffering critical burns. The community was left reeling as medical officials fought to save these lives, and families awaited news of their loved ones. The fire, which occurred on August 15th, had initially left around 80 people injured, mostly women and children, during a wedding celebration. The tent, located in the district of Al-Jahra just north of Kuwait City, was completely destroyed. Following this tragic incident, the Kuwait Fire Service Department, KFSD, conducted a thorough investigation and released a final report that pointed to several severe missteps. The report confirmed that the fire was an act of arson, with investigators finding evidence of flammable substances at the scene. This deliberate act had led to a swift and horrifying spread of flames through the tent. The report also highlighted crucial errors in the marquee's setup, including the fatal decision to have only one entrance, which severely hampered escape efforts. Furthermore, the tent was packed with inflammable items and was overcrowded, factors that only added to the tragedy. The somber atmosphere of a courtroom was palpable as 23-year-old Nasra Yussef Mohammed al-Enezi stood trial for allegedly igniting a fire that claimed the lives of 58 women and children. The tragic event occurred at a wedding party, engulfing a tent designated for women and children in mere minutes, leading to a horrific stampede. Nasra, appearing frail and pale, was escorted into the courtroom by 5 female guards from the central prison. The trial began with Judge Adel al-Saghir inquiring whether she had set the fire. Nasra's response was a simple, "No," the only word she uttered throughout the brief session. During the proceedings, Nasra was initially reluctant to speak, even needing assistance to approach the judge. Dressed in a long grey dress with her face covered, the guards removed her veil as she faced the judge, revealing her stunned expression. Despite her initial silence, when pressed again by the judge, she firmly denied the charges. Amidst these proceedings, Nasra's legal team advocated fervently for her release pending trial, revealing distressing allegations about her treatment in custody. They claimed that Nasra was 2 months pregnant at the time of her arrest and had suffered a forced abortion orchestrated by a prison guard related to her husband with the complicity of a nurse. Her attorney, Khalid Al-Awadi, suggested that the miscarriage was induced to avoid the commutation of a potential death sentence to life imprisonment, as Kuwaiti law forbids executing pregnant women. They demanded that she be medically examined to ascertain the circumstances of her miscarriage. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the prosecutor remained silent while the defense painted a picture of injustice and mistreatment. The judge, however, dismissed all petitions from the defense and scheduled the next hearing for November 17 to delve deeper into the defense arguments. Outside the court, the atmosphere was charged as legal teams and family members grappled with the implications of the case. Nasra, still technically married to the man who had remarried, faced not only the court's judgment, but also the heavy burden of public and personal anguish. The story of the Jahra wedding fire remains a complex weave of personal tragedy and legal drama, continuing to unfold with each court session. A 23-year-old woman, Nasra Yussef Mohammed al-Enezi, faced the ultimate sentence, death by hanging, for her role in a devastating fire at a wedding ceremony. This dreadful event led to the deaths of 58 women and children, marking it as one of the most heart-wrenching disasters in Kuwait's modern history. The court ruled that Nasra's actions were premeditated murder. She was accused of setting the blaze during celebrations where her husband was marrying another woman, reportedly in retaliation for how he had treated her. Despite her consistent denial of the allegations throughout her trial, the overwhelming evidence led to her conviction for both premeditated murder and initiating a fire with the intent to kill. Following this tragic event and in response to the catastrophic safety failures it highlighted, Kuwaiti authorities imposed a ban on the use of wedding tents, a decision aimed at preventing such disasters in the future. As Nasra was not present in the courtroom to hear her fate, her lawyers expressed their intent to appeal the sentence, clinging to hope amidst despair. A heated debate continued around the fate of Nasra Yussef al-Enezi, a 24-year-old woman sentenced to death for starting a fire at a wedding that tragically killed 58 people. The Supreme Court had upheld her death sentence, a rare decision that solidified the gravity of her actions. The case, fraught with emotional and political layers, had captured the nation's attention. Defense attorney Zaid al-Khabaz voiced concerns about the fairness of the trial. suggesting that it was influenced by public and political pressure rather than just the facts of the case. He had hoped the sentence would be reduced to life imprisonment, reflecting on the influence of the court of public opinion on the legal proceedings. Sociologist Dr. Abdul Wahab Zafiri commented on the broader societal issues highlighted by the tragedy, such as polygamy and the lack of appreciation for women's roles, which he believed contributed to the catastrophic event. Meanwhile, Khidr al-Baroun, a psychology professor, argued for compassion, noting that al-Enezi's young age and emotional state at the time might have impaired her judgment. However, not everyone agreed on the notion of leniency. Najla al-Naqi, a lawyer, argued that the death sentence served as a necessary deterrent to prevent such drastic actions in the future. Public opinion was split, with some like engineer Saleh al-Harbi demanding swift justice, while others like teacher Naja al-Ajmi called for a reconsideration of the death penalty, suggesting a move towards life imprisonment as a more humane option. The final decision lay in the hands of Kuwait's emir, who had a history of commuting death sentences to life imprisonment. The country waited to see if he would extend his mercy once again or if justice would take a harsher path. As the debate ragged on, the tragedy remained a poignant reminder of the deep divisions and unresolved social tensions within Kuwaiti society.